What's up, podcast? Before we start today's episode, I just want to make sure that you guys are following and subscribing all of our content at svaofamerica.com/AssistanceHQ. There you can find all of the latest and greatest content, podcasts, articles, and so much more. The link's going to be in the description, so make sure you don't ever miss a piece of content. It's a whole lot of assistance going on. And now, a moment from our sponsor. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Ramblings. I'm your host, Angelo Roberts Jr., and we're back with another day. Today is a re-recording day because I go to post a podcast and tell me why I accidentally recorded it with my Bluetooth headphones on. Dang, man, I was so aggravated. So I go to post the podcast, and that day, I remember it vividly because I was in a meeting and I was trying to find out why I couldn't hear anything, I reset the meeting, I did a whole bunch of things, and then, if you don't know, there's a Bluetooth sign on your MacBook. And if you look at the Bluetooth sign, when it's paired or connected, it has two dots. It's very inconspicuous, but nonetheless a change. And I didn't notice that this was connected. So lo and behold, 3-4 days ago, I was recording a podcast and I seen that, my earphones were left in. And I was like, dang, hopefully it still caught it. So I listened to it for like 10 seconds. I was like, okay, clear enough. I'm just going to post it, whatever. I go today to break it up into two totally separate podcasts because it was long enough for that, and explain to me why I jump into the middle and you can't hear anything. It just sounds like it sounded so wonky. And this isn't the first time I've had to do a re-recording. You guys thoroughly know how much I hate doing a re-record of a podcast. I am a one-take kind of person, a first take, one and done kind of deal, because I'm with Gary Vee. I'm with the posting it. I don't need to do 1,000 takes. Do you know how much time you waste doing 1,000 takes? I'm with just posting it and keep it going. So shout out to Gary Vee for putting me on that way, because but I'm glad I still double checked it. Had I decided, you know what, I'm going to make this an entire podcast, a one full hour long podcast, I would have messed up and put out a terrible piece of work. You would not have been able to, you would have been listening to the podcast and be like, what is he saying? So this is a re-recording of said podcast. Now, obviously, the re-records are different because they're re-records. I already recorded the podcast. I already said stuff. And so now I have to repeat myself. And I hate repeating myself because why you didn't listen to the first time? So this is the re-recording of said podcast. But since it's a re-recording, there's been updates, things have changed. There have been riots. I posted other podcasts, so other things have happened. So let me get you, I guess, quickly inundated with. See, that was a terrible word. So let me get you quickly inundated. That was a terrible word selection right there. Let me just quickly update you on what is going on. Because I am inundated with a lot of stuff. There we go. That's a much better use of the word inundated. No, it's not my vocab of the word week, guys. No, it's just, like I said, my mind just moves so fast sometimes that I have trouble keeping up with all of the different things that go on. You feel me? So, but what I really was talking about is in the podcast was I had someone approach me about a previous podcast that I did. A colleague of mine that I've talked to. I met them through a networking meeting, and they've critiqued me on a number of different things, and it's not in a negative way. They really try to help, and when I say critique, it's because they actually read my work, which is really what I like the best. It's not like this person was just critiquing me just because they would like to see X, Y, or Z. It's because this person sees my work constantly, likes whatever they like, you feel me? But what really happens to be the issue is some people don't know when or how to give advice, when to give advice or how to give advice. And thankfully, this person did not have that problem. They gave constructive criticism in a way that betters me. It's not like they were like, oh, I think you should do this, or I don't like how you do that, or you should do this. It's my life. I'm going to do what I want. It's my content. I'm going to do what I want. But it's in the way of her giving criticism for helping me. And I just feel like that's a huge plus, because not a lot of people give valuable advice or valuable critique and criticism. And I feel like that's an underrated skill. It's almost like it is a skill to be able to critique somebody or give them a feedback without coming off as attacking them or making it seem like you're just trying to point, like show them where their wrongfalls are. In this particular situation, this person on multiple times has pointed out either a spelling correction or maybe like a grammar mistake. And why I appreciate that is because, one, the very first thing you have to do is have the content in front of you. So I'm happy that the content is in front of your eyes. Two, you then took the time to analyze that piece of content. So the advice she gave me is that when I'm promoting my lives, or whenever I'm promoting a podcast and everything, I'm not giving enough detail. I should give the juiciest detail about the podcast, right? Which makes them want to listen, because so many people are promoting, their own content. You have to find your way to, to separate yourself. And the reason I enjoyed that piece of advice is because, one, it came from a genuine spot of trying to help see me better, because it's like, okay, I see you doing well, and this can help you do even better. It wasn't, hey, I see you doing well, this is what I'd like to see you doing now, because there's no correlation in that. But if you're like, hey, I see what you're doing, and based on these experiences I would recommend you do this, So I really think learning how to give advice or criticism is an extremely important skill, but it's just as important to learn how to take it, because there's been plenty of times that people have tried to tell me to do something that you look at them and you're just like, no, I shouldn't do that at all. Like, for whatever craft you have, if you were a basketball player, right? LeBron James, and LeBron James post game goes up to, a fan, and a fan says, yo, you should have did X, Y, and Z on the court. LeBron doesn't have to listen to that fan. That is LeBron. That is single-handedly one of the greatest basketball players. And the only reason I say greatest is because there are still a large debate with that new Michael Jordan documentary out and everything. I'm still personally a Kobe fan. So Kobe's the greatest player in my book. That's besides the point. Anyway, do you think LeBron James is going to take the advice of a fan? Now, take that same advice and give it to an analytic, someone who knows and understands basketball. Why should you? Now, the advice, people are like, oh, it's the same advice. It's the same advice. It's the same advice. That's not the point. It's not always what the key point is. It's sometimes you need to stay in your lane. It's simply as that. Giving advice and understanding when and how to give the critique, criticism, and advice is just as important as learning how to take that advice. I don't know what else to say. So you have to understand that not everyone either has the most knowledge in it or has your best interest at heart. There's an example. And it's crazy I use it now because I hate anything that examples that my father gave me. So, but he had me read this book, right? And it's called The Greatest Man in Babylon. And the reason that book stuck with me is because it followed the journey of an imaginary person who wanted to be wealthy. And obviously it takes place in Babylon, but it just takes place in older times, obviously, because it's Babylon. So we're going to call this person the broke person. We'll just call him a broke person, right? That's the easiest way to label it. He is a broke person who wants to be a rich person or a wealthy person. And so this broke person goes on a travel and he finds a wealthy person, a wealthy individual. And he says, listen, I want to learn from you. You are a wealthy person. I am a broke person. So I'd like to learn from you. So the wealthy person says, if you're going to learn from me, you're going to have to follow every step that I tell you. And so the broke man says, I'll do that. I'll follow every step that you tell me. And so The broke man says, what's the first step that I must do? The wise man says, knowledge. You must obtain knowledge. So the broke person goes into the town to obtain knowledge. This is where you're doing your research, if you will. This is where you're looking for your feedback on what you're doing. So the broke person, the poor person, goes and sees a brickmaker. Now, this brickmaker is a very well-to-do brickmaker. He's an extremely well-known brickmaker. The brickmaker says, I have gathered enough money to go on a voyage to seek out diamonds. This is what will it cost. I think you should invest with me. This is what I know. So the poor person, listening to the advice of the mentor, saying go out and look for advice and knowledge, goes out, does that, and invests with this brickmaker who is a well-known brickmaker, and says, you know what, I'm going to go on this diamond expedition and look for all of these gems because I've saved up all of my money for brickmaking, and I'm going to go find gems. I've got this map and all of this stuff. Invest in me, and I'll bring your money back tenfold. The brickmaker goes out, comes back with absolutely nothing. So the broke man goes back to his mentor and says, yo, you told me that if I found someone to give me advice and listen to and all of this stuff to give me knowledge, I would be, in a better position. So the rich man tells the poor man, tell me your story. So the poor man tells him his story. And he's like, so you mean to tell me you went to a brickmaker, invested in him for the purpose of gems? Do you understand how that sounds? Think of that. So you have to know where you're getting your information and your knowledge from. The same can be applied to today. If you are going and you're looking to purchase health insurance, or you're looking to purchase a life term insurance, right? Are you going to go to an investment banker? No. You're going to go to an insurance broker. Why? Because that is the person who deals in that field. If you want your accounting done, if you need accounting work, if you need analytics, you're not going to go to the sales and marketing department. You're going to go to the accounting department. The same is true when you're taking advice and listening to people. When you're taking advice or heeding the word of somebody else, take into account what experiences and knowledge they have. You have to take the advice with a grain of salt and literally only focus on how it can apply based on their experiences. So if someone's giving you advice about music and they have no musical experience, that tells you you shouldn't listen to that person, right? Now, if a person is giving you advice and says they do not like a song, and they tell you why they do not like that song, you can come to the conclusion based on that advice of this particular style of person. So whoever gave you that feedback, and the people that are similar or have the same tastes as him would not like that music. Now, if you understand that that is your target market and you're trying to make music for someone like that person, you should listen to the advice of him, right? But if this person is trying to help you improve your music and doesn't know squat about music, you shouldn't listen to that person. Now, we're talking about the exact same person, right? The same person that's going to give you the advice about how to make your song better, and is the same person that's telling you they don't like your song. You just have to listen, train your ear on what goes in and what stays in. So going back to the example of Babylon, that we're talking about with the rich man and the broke man. So the broke man is continuing and says, so you're telling me I have to go find someone that's experienced in what they do and then listen to them. The rich man says, yeah, go do that. So the broke man goes out back to the marketplace, right? The brickmaker, he passes by the brickmaker with a scowl, because he's upset and everything, and then comes across a jewelry maker. So this jewelry maker, he's like, oh, so you make jewelry and you deal with gems. So you know what you're talking about. You must know what you're talking about because you deal with gems and you make jewelry and you're going on a jewelry voyage. You're going on a diamond voyage. Of course, it's a smart idea to invest my money with you. You know what you're talking about. I'm going to put my money with the jewelry maker because he's going to go get diamonds and everything to make more jewelry. So jewelry man comes back with diamonds. However, he does a terrible job at putting those diamonds into jewelry. He's not a very good jewelry maker. So he doesn't sell that much. So the broke man, still broke, doesn't get enough money or doesn't get any money because the jewelry man didn't have enough to cover the expenses. So the broke man goes back to his mentor, the rich man. And the rich man says, so you found someone that knows what they're talking about relatively because they're in that field, yet they didn't do well. What is their level of expertise? Broke man says, you didn't say anything about, how much they should know. You just said that that should be their thing. That should be their niche. And so the rich man says to him, okay, so it's their niche, but they're not that good. Would you ask someone who was bad at something to do something that was good quality? So this jewelry maker deals with cheap jewelry, and he goes to get expensive jewelry to come back to make jewelry. However, he's only worked with cheap jewelry. So he's not going to know how to work with these nice and fine diamonds. Therefore, that's why you didn't make any money. So yeah, you found someone that kind of knew what they were talking about because, they make jewelry and they deal with diamonds all the time, but they're not experienced enough. They don't have the knowledge that you're looking for. Similarly, you have to know when to take advice from someone in your field. If you know what you know, and that's a weird way of saying that because for the people that do know, they know what they know, and people that understand what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. So if you know what you know, right, and you don't know what you don't know, are you going to take advice from someone that knows less than you or more than you? You always want to go left, right, or up, never down. When you're in the world of business, advice, taking tips, or whatever it is that you're trying to do, left, right, those are peers. Those are people on your level. Those are the people that they're the closest people to your ear. Think about that. The people closest to your ears are the people to your left and to your right because they're on your level. So they're the people that you're going to get the most advice from, the most pointers, the most feedback. You have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to also recognize you guys are on the same level. So what real difference is this person doing that can better themselves that they may or may not have done that doesn't make them better than you in that particular skill? Example, LeBron James has played next to some of the greatest people. Carmelo Anthony is one of those people. They're both small forwards. They both have had a longevity career, and they're both all-stars, both top-tier players. LeBron, however, is considered the greatest player ever to some. What advice could Carmelo Anthony give to LeBron James that would help his game? Think about that. What advice could Carmelo Anthony give to LeBron James to help his game? That is why you have to be careful with who you listen to and what it is that they're saying that you're listening to. Not everyone has the best advice. Not everyone knows what they're talking about. Not everyone has the proper experiences. Not everyone's advice is relevant to you. You have to very fine-tune what and who you listen to. So it's going to start with your circle. Why? Because your circle are the people that are closest to you. You have to fine-tune your circle, because if you don't fine-tune your circle, all of the advice, because here's the thing, if you have all this stuff in your ear, something is going to seep through. And guess what? The more negative or the more bad that you have going into your ears, the more likely that one of those things will seep in. So you want to surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, that know what they're talking about, and that are better than you. The saying goes, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Hey Ramblers, before you go, make sure you're following us on social media at Assistance HQ across the board for all content and exclusives. And for an even more personal touch, subscribe to our weekly newsletter with the link in the description.